I'm Nika Lewis, standing in for your regular host, George Davis, and this is a continuation of the discussion we've had on issues around the legacy of slavery and the United Reformed Church in the UK, who visited Jamaica, and they're still in Jamaica. They're here apologizing for slavery, and we welcome now in studio the Right Reverend Sally Foster-Fulton, Moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland for 2023 to 2024. We also have, right next to me, Ms. Karen Campbell. She is the General Secretary of the Intercultural Ministries of the United Reformed Church in the UK. A warm welcome to you both, ladies.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Now, during part one of our discussion, our focus was more concentrated on the historic apology and the visit of the United Reformed Church based in the UK. This time we engage more deeply with the 7-point reparations plan, as well as the action that is being taken by CRAF so far. They visited Scotland recently, well, not so recent, but last summer. What was that experience like? What was the whole process like engaging with them in the UK? I'll begin with the Right Reverend Fulton.
Certainly. Thank you. It genuinely felt like a God moment. So at the General Assembly last year, there was a report brought on the legacy of slavery. And so the General Assembly is the governing body of the Church of Scotland. So there had been a research project into what part did the Church of Scotland play, or what impact did it have in transatlantic slavery? When slavery was abolished and reparations were paid, where did that money go? Was that money, was that dispersed into the churches? And what's our response to be? And so when CRAF came to the UK and we met with them, it felt like a natural move to say, and one of the things that the General Assembly had agreed is that we would write a formal apology, but that apology needed to be sincere and informed. And so a period of deep listening and discernment was required. CRAF is graciously, we are really learning so much, and be able to walk alongside this and be part of it has been a real blessing.
Wow, so much right there. I'll be coming back to a few of those. But before that, I want to just bring you into the conversation now, Ms. Campbell. And you said it's just Ms. Karen Campbell, but you have a unique title. And based on what I've heard in the apology ceremony recently, you pointed out that it was a unique time for Black people of African descent who were involved in the church in England.
Yes.
And your role is quite unique as well. So tell me a little about what you do at your church and why it's so critical for you to be here as well.
Okay, I will do. So I've been in my present post since April 2020, appointed right at the start of the first COVID lockdown. During COVID lockdown, I experienced bereavement myself due to COVID, and within a few weeks of being in my post, George Floyd was murdered, and even before coming into my post, I was already working in the URC, or been tasked with being part of something called the Legacy of Slavery Task Group, which was looking at the issues related to transatlantic slavery, and not only the history and the hidden history, but also the continuing legacies for today and how it manifests in our world, how it manifests in our church. So then when I was appointed to my present role, I then became responsible for that work in the United Reformed Church. And so whereas before I was just a part of the task group, I'm now heading up the work and moving it forward. And even before coming into my post, the URC, really in a focused way, since about 2017, the United Reformed Church has been engaging with the issue of transatlantic slavery and its legacies and thinking what to do next. We had already been on the journey of thinking about should we offer some form of apology for the role of our antecedent bodies in transatlantic slavery.
So this is before you were introduced to CRAF and you had those discussions.
We were already thinking about that. That's right. We were already thinking about reparations and whether the URC should offer some form of reparations. And we were also thinking about the issue of white privilege and whether this exists in our church, in our world, in our society around us. So we're engaging in that work. More recently then, it was actually in 2022 that the United Reformed Church did formally adopt a statement of confession and apology with regard not only to the transatlantic slavery, the role of our antecedents, but also with regard to our continuing complicity today that allows racism and inequity and inequality to continue in our world today. And actually members of CRAF saw that apology, have accepted that apology, have reached out to us to work with them to flesh out what the reparations might look like, because we're clear it needed to have action, not just words.
And it's interesting you mentioned that CRAF has accepted, because I heard the response to the apology that you, along with another seemingly reverend as well,
yes,
of Trinidadian descent.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So just to clarify, because I'm the Secretary for Global and Intercultural Ministries, so that's my role, that's my ministry within the church. And Reverend Dr. Tessa Henry Robinson is actually the moderator of our General Assembly. So,
I see.
So it was Tessa. It was Tessa
because
who delivered the apology.
that was one of the initial jumping out questions, because you are seeing two women of African descent making an apology on behalf of the white church, or it would have been presumed a monarchy that was not predominantly black. So it was a unique spin.
Right, okay. Absolutely hear you and take the point. And both Tessa and I are very, very conscious of that fact as well. We are very conscious, to use Tessa's words, of our two-ness as we come to this, because we recognize that we are African people in diaspora, and therefore that we are those who bear some of the brunt of the negative legacies which continue in our society and in our church, you know, at the same time. We bear the weight of that. We are also conscious that we are a part of the church, and we are a part of the UK, and the church and the UK bear some of the benefits of, you know, when I say benefits, you understand what I mean, that we bear some of the benefits that come out of transatlantic slavery, benefits that we shouldn't have, but that is the way that it is.
Let's talk a little about some of those benefits, Reverend Fulton, Right Reverend. Do I address you each time as Right Reverend?
Sally works really well.
Oh, awesome.
Call me Sally.
Okay, Sally. So if we were to talk about some of the benefits had by the church, presumably in England or elsewhere in the UK, that where you sit, what are some of those benefits that you believe, you know, ought to have not been had by the church?
Certainly. And I think not just the church, but the UK at large and the United States and all places that were involved in transatlantic slavery. Education. You know, so much is built on the back of that slave trade. So the Industrial Revolution was built on the back of the slave trade. You know, in agriculture in South Carolina, which is where I was born, South Carolina in the United States, was built on the back of the slave trade. So and all of that money that was made, all of the wealth that was created, that was on the back of an unjust, horrific trade in human beings, human trafficking. You know, in the early. So you can't get away from it or say that was history. It's a living history, and the impacts are still happening. And so, you know, repairing. You know, the beginning of a repair is acknowledgement of responsibility and accountability, and to say we have, as Karen said, benefits or money and wealth and education that was built on the back of injustice. So how do we begin to repair that breach? And one is a genuine apology,
which you have done through the church,
which the church is committed to. The Church of Scotland. We're here as on a pilgrimage. So the United Reformed Church, the Church of Scotland, and the Scottish Episcopal Church were here, but they had to go back. But we came as a group, and I think from my perspective as moderator of the General Assembly of the Church of Scotland was an incredible opportunity for us to make an ecumenical impact in Scotland, to raise the profile of reparations and not just the duty to really grapple with this and to say, you know, as Christians and as people in the church and as part of the family of God, how do we deal with this together? And part of that is acknowledging that we were part of this. And then, you know, the word repent. Sometimes we distance ourselves with words that we don't really get. Well, repent does not mean, oh, I'm sorry. It means to turn around to go in the opposite direction. And so not only is it about, you know, the apology and the reparation, but also ensuring that we don't repeat those structures anymore. Because, you know, it would be it's very easy, if you don't recognize them and call them out, to continue those very detrimental paradigms. So it's about figuring out ways not to do that.
Well, ladies, it's a good place to take a quick break. Stay with us. Lead Story continues right after this.